The world of Ethel had two hearts. In the soaring, cloud-piercing peaks of the azure spires, the heart beat with the rhythm of wind and rain. It was the domain of Hydora, the great rain dragon. Her scales were not plates of armor, but a living, iridescent tapestry of waterfall mist and monsoon cloud, shimmering with captured rainbows. Her breath was not fire, but the first life-giving downpour after a century of drought, the gentle mist that coaxed forests from stone. The violent purging deluge that cleansed blight. She was the patron of growth, of renewal, of the soft, inexorable power of water that shaped mountains and filled oceans. Her song was the patter of rain on leaves, the roar of a river in flood, and her tears were the very springs that fed the world. Deep beneath the continent, in the crushing, silent dark of the Obsidian deeps, the other heart beat with a slow, volcanic pulse. This was the kingdom of Ignox, the Obsidian Dragon King. He was not born, but forged. His body was a crusted monument of cooled magma and sharp, glass-like stone, his wings vast sails of darkness that blotted out the subterranean suns of glowing fungi. His breath was not flame, but annihilation, a beam of pure destructive heat that could vitrify sand to glass and vaporize entire lakes in an instant. He was the patron of permanence, of stillness, of the unyielding law that all that rises must one day be buried. His song was the grinding of tectonic plates, the deep sigh of a continent settling. And his tears, if he could shed them, would have been molten rock. For millennia, a tense, symbiotic silence held. Hydra's rains fed the rivers that seeped into Ignox's deep realms, cooling his fiery veins. Ignox's volcanic uplifts created new mountains where Hydra's clouds could gather. They were opposing forces in a fragile, eternal dance. The fracture began with a human folly, a mining delve that went too deep, piercing a sacred geothermal vein in Ignox's realm. The resulting cataclysm was not an eruption, but a slow, deadly bleed. A miasma of superheated gas and metallic poison began to seep upwards, a creeping death that withered Hydra's forests from the roots and poisoned her highland springs. The gentle rain she wept to heal the land sizzled and turned to acidic steam upon contact with the rising plague. Hydora descended, not with wrath, but with a mother's desperate sorrow. She coiled her vast fluid form around the poisoned mountain, her misty scales trying to absorb, to dilute, to cleanse. But the poison was of Ignox's essence, a negation of her very being. It burned her, not with heat, but with a metaphysical corrosion, turning her iridescent scales a sickly, tarnished gray at the edges. From the depths, sensing not an attack but a profound violation of the deep places, Ignox rose. The earth itself convulsed as he pushed through the mantle, his obsidian form breaking into the withered highlands like a black, jagged continent emerging from the sea. He saw Hydora enveloping the wound, and in his ancient stone logic, he saw not a healer, but a contaminant. Her watery essence was seeping into his wound, destabilizing it further. To him, she was an infection. There were no roars of challenge, no declarations of war. The battle commenced in a terrifying silence, broken only by the elements themselves. Hydora moved with the fluid grace of a tsunami. She drew the moisture from the weeping skies, forming whips of liquid diamond that could slice through granite. She slammed a mountain-sized wave of condensed cloud into Ignox's flank. The impact would have shattered a range of normal peaks. But against Ignox's fused obsidian plates, it exploded into a million shards of ice and a deafening concussion of steam. Ignox staggered, a continent shifting on its axis, but did not yield. His response was a slow, deliberate turn of his neck. The air before his maw shimmered with wasted heat. Then he released his breath. It was not a stream of fire, but a lance of focused oblivion, a line of white-hot non-existence. It cut through Hydora's watery shield like a hot needle through fog, searing a deep, smoking canyon across her misty torso. Where it passed, her form didn't burn. It unmade, leaving a terrifying scar of empty, dead air that howled with vacuum before the atmosphere rushed back in. Hydora let out a sound, the cry of a hurricane suddenly stifled, a note of pure elemental agony. Her tears, which fell as healing rain, now fell as scalding, saline grief, etching pits into the rock below. The battle was a clash of fundamental opposites, a drama written in continental scars. Hydora summoned typhoons, drowning Ignax in cataclysmic downpours that sought to seep into his joints to quench his inner fire. The water flashed to superheated steam against his skin, creating permanent, swirling fog banks of agony. Ignax answered with volcanic eruptions, hurling pyroclastic blasphemies into her clouds, trying to boil her from the sky. The land between them became a hellscape of glassy plains and sudden boiling geysers. The true tragedy was not in the violence, but in the slow, dawning realization that seeped through their rage. As Hydora's life-giving mists were scorched away, she felt the deep earth's pain, not just Ignax's anger, but the profound, wounded stability he embodied. She felt the countenance groaning under the strain of their fight. As Ignax's destructive beams scarred her, he felt the desperate, weeping love for the world she carried in every droplet, the interconnected web of life he was severing. In a final, devastating move, Hydora, weakening, poured the entirety of her essence into one last monumental storm. A spiral of cloud and rain 100 miles wide descended upon Ignax, aiming to encase him in a perpetual, crushing ocean. Ignax, his core fire guttering from the constant deluge, gathered the last of his primordial heat and launched himself upward, not with a beam, but as a living missile, a continent seeking to pierce the sky. They met in a cataclysm that blanched the sky white and silenced the world. When the light and sound faded, the two great beings were entwined in a terrible, eternal tableau. Hydora's watery form was frozen, not to ice, but to a crystalline, glassy statue. A perfect capture of her flowing shape, now transparent and brittle, wrapped around the mountain. Ignax was embedded at the peak. His obsidian body shot through with crystalline veins of Hydra's essence, his volcanic heart finally, utterly quenched. He was no longer a king of fire, but a mountain of black glass and frozen rain. The wound in the earth was sealed, fused shut by their combined petrified forms. The poison stopped, but the victory was the ultimate defeat. The Rain Dragon could no longer weep. The Obsidian King could no longer burn. Their war had ended not with death, but with a union of sterile stillness. The world's two hearts had stopped beating, locked in a final tragic embrace. And from the new, glass-smooth mountain that now dominated the landscape, a new kind of water began to seep. Not the gentle rain of Hydora, nor the boiling geyser of Ignax's realm. It was a slow, silent trickle of pure, clear water that tasted, to any creature brave enough to drink it, of infinite sorrow and the bittersweet peace of a conflict resolved only by mutual annihilation. It was the only tear their petrified forms could now shed. An eternal testament to the day the sky fell in love with the stone, and in doing so, broke the world.